We're back. Day 2 of the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. You know the crew, me and TMR, hanging with you on Taco Tuesday. You're a big Lakers guy. How was my LeBron impression?
It was okay. It was okay. It was better here than I think it would be on the court, which is fair. You and I still have to do our one-on-one game.
Yeah.
Although I have to be honest with you, I'm a little nervous about our one-on-one game earlier this summer. So me, Daniel, Mike Clay, and Thirsty Kyle went on and played a little 2-on-2.
Okay. It's already a good story.
And well, first off, like I'm old. I got winded. I mean, they're all like I got winded like halfway through. But Secret Squirrel is actually secret shooter.
Really?
He could not miss. Like you would not believe it. Secret Squirrel was draining threes.
That was weird. That was like, totally average. That's what I normally do.
You literally did not miss.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin.
I'm a shooter.
Andre Drummond. Right. Daniel Dopp.
You have no idea.
Mr. Big Shot. I grew up watching Chauncey. Come on, guys.
Thirsty Kyle is a little foul happy.
Pass first.
He's a little foul happy.
I'm giving up some size here.
I understand. You got a little slappy.
Yeah. Well, I have nothing in the way of size. So you're taking me in the paint.
Seymour Hoffman, Along Came Polly.
Yeah, pretty much.
One of the greatest scenes of all time in any movie. Rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I will say, rest in peace for him. Great actor. But Thirsty Kyle, I hate to admit this, totally stuffed me.
Yeah.
Blocked like me. Matthew on those Twitter.
Had to make it something like that.
He's Thirsty Kyle. Yeah, we had this debate at the show pod. How tall are you, Thirsty Kyle? We literally said like he could be anywhere from like 6 foot to 5'6".
Based on
just you, like I don't know, just because of what's going on over back there. Anyway, how tall are you, Thirsty Kyle?
5'11" on a very, very good day.
That's what I said.
5'10's probably accurate.
You're thin. You're very thin. You have a thin frame, and you have a young face, but you're tall. And so, anyway, yeah.
Small boned is the appropriate terminology, by the way.
We stick together. We stick together.
Small boned. But
I'll say this.
Thirsty Kyle was a better basketball player than you would think.
I'm not surprised by that. Kyle loves his basketball. And Kyle is in the gym. I go to the gym each morning. Sure. Kyle is like, by the time I get into the gym, Kyle's already finishing up. He's a specimen. He is impressive. We've got some news.
Which reminds me, Thirsty Kyle, we should figure out if we can get my badge to work at the gym. It has.
We got to work on that.
They have fresh fruit on Fridays. You should go on Friday. It'd be good for you.
I'm in on that.
Get a pear and lift some bicep curls or something.
Put that on my schedule.
All right, we got some news here. Major news, because in 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks, we are coming to. Is it the greatest city on earth? I don't know. Whatever. That's subjective. It's the biggest city on earth.
It's the city that never sleeps is what it is. It's the Big Apple.
The Big Apple, New York City. We are coming for you for the 4th consecutive summer for a live show. August 6th.
No.
August 20th.
Today is August
6th. August 20th. We are coming to you. The location is the Hard Rock Cafe in Times Square. The doors open at 6:30. The show begins at 7:30. It will be raucous. If it's anything like Detroit, which was incredible, it's going to be the night of the evening, the event of the year in New York City.
I'm sorry. Did you say it's going to be the night of the evening? I just want to go back to that
Daniel,
real fast.
can you stop with your particulars here? It is going to be the event of the year in New York City.
It is. I would like to say here, Field, that mispronouncing things and mangling the English language is sort of my thing.
Yeah,
stay in your lane.
Okay.
Stay in your lane.
The doors open at 6:30. The show begins at 7:30. You can buy your tickets at ticketweb.com. That is ticketweb.com, and search for ESPN's Fantasy Focused Football. Limited supply. They'll sell out fast. We look forward to seeing you there, and we promise we won't suck.
Yeah, there you go. August 20th, New York City at the Hard Rock Cafe in Times Square. Ticketweb.com. Come see us out.
Rewind. Fantasy news
from the National Football League.
This is the instant replay.
All right, let's begin with some news, and I'm going to pull out my phone here. I'm trying to use Twitter less during the podcast this year. I'm an easily distracted young man. I'm trying to do this, though, but I am going to the
I'm
page.
on the IG all the time.
Right, you are.
Matthew Berry, TMR. I'm trying to, what do you think? So I'm a question while you're looking it up. So I'm at 997 on Twitter. I'm 3,000 away from 1 million.
Wow.
But I'm at 86,000 on Instagram. So I'm like 14,000 away from 100K on the IG. and I'm trying to figure out which one will get there first. Like, those are my two goals. I'd like to get to 1 million and 100K. My IG grows faster than Twitter. I feel like Twitter doesn't grow that much these days.
Sure.
I'll go with Twitter.
Or maybe it's just my own personal, maybe it's only my personal account doesn't grow that much.
I'm just going to say this. The idea that you could get to 100,000 on Instagram, where it's like people want to actually look at pictures of you.
Of attractive people.
Is a much bigger deal for you to be at 100,000 than 1 million on Twitter.
I'm saying, like, I can't tell you. Like, I'll have friends that, like, tag, other friends in, and I'll look and I'll be like, oh, this person I've never heard of has 400,000 followers on Twitter. I feel like everyone does.
Dude, you got to be better at video games. Like, get good at video games. Yeah, people love you. Like, I find like that kid who won $3 million for playing Fortnite, 16 years old.
Yes.
Better to be good at video games than be good at like golf or tennis or other individual sports in our next life. Anyways,
okay.
Back to Twitter. I'm at Field Yates. I'm trying to grow my following to like 6,000. Matthew's going for 1 million.
Stop it.
Anyways.
Stop it. Field Yates, you're the fastest growing account at ESPN.
Oh, I'll take
you and Mina. That's a true story. You and Mina Kimes.
Did you have like a metric behind this?
No, we get reports from the social team. Are you not on those email distribution lists?
No, I love this.
I will show you
that.
Fact? Legitimately, like, I get an email every Monday from the social team, and I think a lot of people do, that ranks all the ESPN talent in terms of their engagement, their followers, how many they've gamed, and everything like that for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you and Mina Kimes, along with the obvious ones, Schefter, Woj, Stephen A., like, they all crush as well. But you and Mina are among the highest risers every week, all the time on Twitter.
Well, thank you. This is a great email that I'd love to be a part of going forward.
Also, just so you know, Mina Kimes was higher on the top 40 under 40 for sports media,
Which is true.
What?
And by the way, deservedly so.
Yeah.
I voted for her.
She's incredible.
Well, age and beauty before whatever I am right here. Anyways.
Yes.
Mina, shout out to you. Trey Wingo this morning, the great Trey Wingo of Golic and Wingo fame and many other things.
At Wingos.
Noted per Josina Anderson. Zeke is not going to play in 2019 without a contract, with the legendary gif from Anchorman of, boy, that escalated quickly.
Right.
Anyways, Josina topped that tweet and said a source added, they still think Ezekiel Elliott not playing is not likely at this time, given the same sentiment that Jerry Jones wants to get a deal done. Context. These comments only came to me this AM in response to me asking if Eric Dickerson's statements yesterday are true. Was anybody here smart enough to know what Eric Dickerson's statements were yesterday? Okay.
Thirsty Kyle.
See if we can do a quick Twitter search on that. But in any event, Matthew.
But hey, listen. So
here was what was introduced: the idea of him not playing this year.
100%. So I mean, I saw that this headline go wide, that Ezekiel Elliott saying per Josina Anderson that he will not play in 2019 without a new contract. But again, Josina walked that back a little bit more or just provided more context, I think is a better way to phrase that, as you just said, which is that they still expect it's more likely that he plays than not. Jerry Jones has expressed a willingness to get the deal done. Thirsty Kyle has popped this up on the screen, apparently.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, Eric Dickerson, I talked to Zeke's agent yesterday, and he said it's possible. It really is possible he will miss some games. He wants to play, but this is business. Zeke's the best player on that football team. If he misses 4 weeks, I guarantee you they'll probably win one. That was Eric Dickerson on Undisputed on Fox Sports 1 yesterday. So that's the context to which Josina was responding with more context regarding Ezekiel Elliott.
Saying she's saying more likely than not it gets done. There is a willingness there on the Cowboys side to get something done. Jerry Jones as well. So the hope is obviously that they work something out and he's in camp. Having said that, this is what I tweeted out. And we talked about this yesterday, but until Ezekiel Elliott is in camp, there is real risk in drafting him. And so my top 200 is out now on ESPN.com. And I dropped Ezekiel Elliott, whose current ADP on ESPN is number 2 overall. The number 2 running back and number 2 overall. I dropped him to number 7 overall. And I have him as my number 5 running back.
So I have a thought here.
Yeah, go ahead.
My thought is this, is that I don't know that I'm going to change my rank of Ezekiel Elliott from running back 4 and 5 overall up until the day before the season at this point. And here's the reason why.
Okay.
If he shows up the week of week 1, Monday of week 1, I'm all the way back in.
Sure, of course.
So for me, I understand why. And I guess maybe I'll wait until late August.
Okay, but let me ask you something.
Okay.
So you said you have him at number 4 overall.
Yep,
right?
4 amongst running backs. Yes,
4th amongst running backs, and I assume 4th overall.
I think 5 overall.
5 overall.
Devontae Adams.
You have
slides
Devontae
in
Adams.
4.
If you knew today, if when we get off the air, Schefter or Josina or Dan Graziano or one of our great insiders, somebody breaks the news. Ezekiel Elliott, new contract extension. He is back in camp tomorrow.
Crank it up.
Where do you rank him?
2.
Okay, so you've discounted him already. So
a little bit, yeah. But I think that's the point. But
my point is, so it's just about how much risk, right? You've literally, we're both saying, like, we think there's risk there. We both dropped him lower than we'd have him if he was in camp today.
Right.
It's just you've dropped him a little less. You've dropped him less than I've dropped him.
I have dropped him from 2 to 4, and here's the reason why. I could already make a case for either of the players that I have now ahead of him, Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara.
Sure.
If you want to talk to me, like, I could make a very compelling case for any of those 3 players, and Saquon as number 1 overall. It's pretty easy for me to do. So the discount on Zeke is not significant as of yet. I'm going to amend what I said earlier.
But you put Devontae Adams ahead of him.
Yes, for now.
Okay.
But I think I might just leave it there until the Sunday before the regular season, which is the day that all those, Saturday is the day of all the final cuts, and then Sunday rosters start to take shape. Many drafts are conducted Sunday through Wednesday night of that week. And the reason why, Matthew, is that if something happens up until that point, like if I'm drafting before then, yes, of course you have to account for the possibility of Zeke missing games. But if you're more patient and you're waiting until then I'm just going to leave him right there. Because I think the closer we get to the season beginning, the more likely that these conversations heat up and talks get going again, and the Cowboys become a bit more desperate as they look at their backfield and they say, all right, well, like, I know Zeke wants a lot of money, but we stink without him.
Right.
That's where I think it gets more real.
Last question then for you, and we'll move on, because we talked about this a lot yesterday.
And we talked about it every day.
And we talked about it in the context of Melvin Gordon as well. If you're drafting today, because there are some people that draft early for various reasons because of timing, schedules. It's when anyone can get together. It's, if you're drafting today, and you do wind up with Zeke, whether you draft him 7th overall where I have him, 5 overall where you have him, he drops to some point where you just can't. You have to take him at some point, who are you drafting, if anyone, as his handcuff? Are you drafting Alfred Morris? Are you drafting Tony Pollard? Are you drafting Darius Jackson? Like, where do you see the current Cowboys running back situation? Because whoever is the starting running back for the Cowboys should have significant value. Not Ezekiel Elliott value, but significant value.
Right. So you'll never forgive Alfred Morris for last year. I will never not love Alfred Morris for last year. So I'm taking Alfred Morris merely to spite you. No, more seriously, Matthew.
Fair. By the way, to be clear on this, I want to just be clear. It's not Alfred Morris's fault. I blame Kyle Shanahan. That rant is really about Kyle Shanahan.
Ooh, I wonder if that ever in the inbox of Kyle Shanahan.
Probably not, but because look, Alfred Morris, he only got 1 snap. That was the argument. That was like,
it was amazing.
It's like, right.
It was amazing. Okay, back to the point.
And it was a crazy deep league for people that are asking, why was I starting Alfred Morris?
Not
insanely deep
Alfred
league.
Morris is my pick.
Okay. I'm intrigued by Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I think the most upside for like big plays is Tony Pollard. The problem is I think Tony Pollard's also the guy that has the least chance to carry the ball 15 to 20 times in a game if Zeke sits. Moving target for me. Yeah. Darius Jackson is my answer as of right now.
Sure.
But
he's been running with the ones. Yeah,
let's take some time on Thursday night to actually watch these guys and see how the Cowboys run when they have maybe not even this Thursday night, but as preseason evolves, see who actually runs with the ones in games. Let's move along.
But I think it's just important to put a bow on this. Is just like the headline that's going to get all the news is he won't play without a new contract. But again, I think it's
more
important.
More nuance to it, right?
More nuance to it. I think it's important. Follow at Josina Anderson on Twitter, where she's provided some more context.
Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback, has said recently that I don't think I'll be running as much as I did last year.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, Matthew, because like 4 days before that, his head coach was like, hey, if Cam Newton set the rushing attempts mark for quarterback at 139, John Harbaugh said, I'd bet the over on that one. I'd bet the over for sure.
Right.
Classic case of he said.
Right.
So let's just sort of use this as a jumping off point to discuss Lamar Jackson this year.
Okay.
Where do you think he lands? Do you think that?
Do you think? By the way, do you think Harbaugh is pro sports gambling? Saying that he bet the over.
Yeah, he's. Does he like renew his vows yearly with his wife in Vegas?
Yeah.
Although he could do it in like 13 states now, and it's all legal, right?
100%. He probably watches Daily Wager.
That's a good point, Doug Kazarian.
ESPN News, our friend Doug.
So Lamar Jackson. Yeah. I think, Matthew, that it's going to be. Here's the limiting factor on Lamar Jackson. Is that they can talk about his progress and his improvement as a passer, and they can talk about the weapons they've added in the passing game this year. I'm not sure that you can teach above average passing. Like he may just be what he is, right?
Right.
An incredible athlete, arguably the most athletic quarterback we've ever seen in the NFL, arguably, right? And just a guy that will never be able to cut it as a thrower. And along those lines, Matthew, like they're going to have to just run the football a ton. You and I were talking about this before the show. John Harbaugh made a comment at one point to the effect of like, they want to revolutionize offensive football or something along those lines. Revolution was involved.
Right. I mean, so it's interesting. I have heard from two different separate sources this year, but they're not sources that I don't want to say they're untrustworthy, but they're not sources that I usually go to. Gotcha. They're not usually my go-to sources, right?
So Raven the mascot, one.
It's two random Reddit guys on Reddit. No, you're right.
R/Orioles fans for life with Y as opposed to I. Yeah,
pretty much exactly. That's exactly right. It's a couple of people that follow me on TikTok.
Yeah. Anyway, Andrew Cashman, former Orioles pitcher.
Yeah, exactly. It's Elvis Gerback. Anyway, no. So look, so there are two sources that I just haven't really used that much. But both of them have said to me in separate conversations that they are hearing that the Ravens offense is going to be almost Oklahoma-esque.
Okay.
That they're going to try to be, very Lincoln Riley inspired, and they want to throw the ball a lot and up tempo and do a bunch of different things. And we've heard John Harbaugh, to your point, say that they think this offense is going to revolutionize the NFL.
Yeah.
And certainly they've made some interesting moves in terms of their draft and their free agency moves. Greg Roman's the offense coordinator. He has had a lot of success with mobile quarterbacks in his past. You think about Kaepernick, you think about Tyrod Taylor. I don't know that I buy it. Again, and I don't know that even if that's true, that that's what they want to do, I don't know that they necessarily have the personnel at this stage in their career. They obviously have a very young receiving core. Lamar Jackson's got, 6 games as a starter, whatever it is. But it's interesting, no? I mean, and if suddenly a running and throwing Lamar Jackson, even if he's not super accurate, I mean, people forget how electric RG3 was his rookie year.
Right. So the big difference is I just don't know that Lamar Jackson is a functional thrower.
Right.
His career high, and I know it's a small sample size, relatively speaking, 204 yards in the NFL. Like, think about games where you can just junk yards your way to 300 yards.
Sure.
204 in, I think, 7 career starts, plus the playoffs. And the lasting memory right now for me is a defense that completely perplexed Lamar Jackson. So it's interesting. He's a player to follow. I will say this, Matthew.
Right.
There is some rushing upside here, but there are enough quarterbacks that either are electric passers or offer better rushing and passing upside that Jackson, to me, is appropriately drafted right now, quarterback 18 in terms of ADP.
I have him slightly higher as QB 17, but I will say that of all my ranks, that's the guy that I'm most nervous about, that I could be way off.
Type player.
Right. Well, just like he has, top 6-7 potential. Right. If he
I'm not there yet.
Okay. Here would be my argument. There was a period of time last year, and Thirsty Kyle, you'll know what this one is, right? Josh Allen was the number one quarterback in fantasy from week 12
4
on?
weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks.
Was it weeks 12 through 16, something like that?
It was a 4-week stretch.
Right, where Josh Allen was the number one quarterback in fantasy. And wouldn't you argue that Josh Allen's accuracy as a passer is similar to Lamar Jackson? And couldn't you argue, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, that Lamar Jackson came in the middle of last year. Like, it's not like they designed the offense around him. He came into an offense that had been designed for Joe Flacco, who's obviously a very different quarterback from a skill standpoint.
Sure.
Right? And so he comes in the middle of that, and they're basically, okay, what can this guy do? This guy can run. Let's try to adjust our offense for a rookie who's coming into an offense that wasn't designed for him, and let's just try to keep it as simple as we could and do this. Thursday Kyle throws it up on the screen. Weeks 12 through 17. Josh Allen was the number one quarterback in fantasy. So my point is that that would be my argument, that if he improves even slightly as a quarterback, I agree, he's never going to be the most accurate guy in the world.
Fair.
But, I mean, Cam Newton is a 55% accurate guy, like, for his career, something like that,
but
right?
In the monster years, his passing totals were insane. Passing touchdowns and passing yardage. The big difference is, last year, the Ravens were like, we are eschewing the passing game. For Josh Allen, although it was because of the unlocking the running game, like Robert Foster, Big Play Bob down the stretch. There were some guys who actually made a mark. And you just need some of these cheap yards in fantasy to be a top 7 guy if you're not going to be an accurate passer.
But again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not necessarily advocating for this. But can't you argue, Field, that with Hollywood Brown, with Miles Boykin, you know what I mean, that they have some of these guys
they're making
the
right steps. I agree.
I mean, they're all young. But if it's a wide open offense like we're hearing rumors of it, and again, like I don't totally trust this, and we haven't heard camp reports that suggest this, so it's hard to really say. But
it's going to be amazing when the first game they walk out with Oklahoma helmets. You're
right?
Like, Matthew's like, I told you. I told you.
I have no idea if this is true. I'm being honest with. Like I said, but it was weird that I've had 2 separate conversations,
right?
From 2 complete people that do not know each other.
Yep.
And they were a week apart that both sort of told me that. And I just think it's
good to file away.
It's an interesting thing that I do think we could potentially be too low on Lamar Jackson. He's certainly one of the most intriguing players heading into 2019.
Let me put a bow in it by saying this. I'm not going into my season with him as the only quarterback on my roster. Andrew Luck's health.
Ooh, Thirsty Kyle with a good stat. He did the work. We just do this. Since 2015, Cam Newton is the second best quarterback in terms of total fantasy points since 2015. Number 2. And in that stretch, he was 37th in completion percentage, 59.8%. So he's completing under 60% of his passes since 2015, still second in fantasy points. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the rushing touchdowns and his rushing, and he's built differently than Lamar Jackson. But it just goes, anyway, there's a chance that we are way too low on Lamar Jackson.
All right,
I'm just saying that.
Let's get to Andrew Luck, whose health is a legitimate concern again. In April, there was this calf injury that bubbled up. It's now August. Not much of a math guy. Kyle can do the work on this one, too. But that's 4 months in my calendar. 4 months later, it's August, and Andrew Luck is still dealing with a calf injury, Matthew. How concerned are you? Because this is quarterback, the 4th quarterback being drafted in terms of ADP. He's a top of the 6th-round player right now. I have him as a top 3 quarterback going into this season, and I'm starting to think it might be time to move him down.
I had him at number 3. I actually had him at 2, and then I moved him to 3, and now I moved him to 4. And my most recent rankings update, my top 200, like I said, is out on ESPN.com. I'm a company man. And I have Andrew Luck as my number 4 quarterback, but ADP of 64. So his current ADP on ESPN is 53. So I'm going around later. And I am a little nervous, especially when you think about there's no reason, Field, to draft a risky quarterback. When you think about the depth of the position, that you can, if this continues to linger, I could easily see me moving Matt Ryan ahead of him, Carson Wentz ahead of him, Baker Mayfield. I mean, I have the Bake Show at QB5 right now.
The Bake Show, I like that.
I don't think that's mine. I'm pretty sure other people have come up with that.
I don't know, but do they have to?
I like he's my beer chugging leader, my fearless beer shotgunning leader.
I mean,
that's who I think of him as.
Come
Baker,
on,
you are the man.
We should do beer chugging rankings. I mean,
Baker's got to be.
Baker's got to be up there
between the mustache and the beer too.
I have not. I want to run this by you.
You're going to grow a mustache? Is that what you're going to run by us?
No. And I. By the way, if you missed the live show in Detroit, I also tell you right now, I am not getting into a beer chugging contest with Field Minister Yates. That was impressive. You sucked that down like a vacuum hoover.
Tasty.
Like a vacuum.
Like a vacuum hoover?
I was going to say like a hoover and then a vacuum.
I am a quarterback. I am a draftable quarterback. Tell me, 100%. Spot the lie.
100%, you absolutely are. Like, he crushed that like a grape. He really did. Brought the house down in Detroit. So there's no way I still think I could take you in basketball, but beer chugging, like, you got me.
You have to modify the basketball game to horse, like a stationary game.
No. Like half court 1-on-1,
okay.
I think I could.
Only
it has to be like to
3-point
11. It has to be like to 11. Where
first
I can
person to score.
First one to 3
First one
wins.
to score.
Yeah.
But Baker Mayfield is currently going. So I just want to right now. So I have yet to declare who my fantasy ride or die is. This year, and I'm sort of circling around. But I have to tell you, at the moment, the clubhouse leader is Baker Mayfield.
Baker Woods Mayfield, y'all.
Yeah.
I had a college teammate named Baker Woods. He used to call him Baker Woods, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's earmark the ride or die for later.
Okay.
But that's
sure.
to be determined.
Anyway, Andrew Luck is currently going. He's currently going as QB4, and just looking at the quarterbacks that are after him: Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield, Drew Brees. Cam Newton, Carson Wentz. I think Wentz has a bigger year. I understand the injury concerns
No
there.
question.
Ryan obviously was a stud last year. He's been a stud 2 of the last 3 years. You know I'm super high on Baker Mayfield. I could see him. I don't think I would put Breeze ahead of him, but I could certainly see moving him down, or just basically not even moving him down, but just if I'm drafting, avoiding him, because why risk it?
Well,
There's so many great quarterbacks. Why risk it?
The big thing here is that there's so many, just you said, like the depth is there. Like if it's at a premium running back, it's a little bit different, right? There's so few, and tight ends a little bit. Like if Zach Ertz missed a couple of days because he got a blister, I'd be like, I'm not changing my ranking here, right? But if it's Andrew Luck, okay, again, I'm totally fine walking into this season with Russell Wilson as my quarterback going into this year. So go ahead and use it as a tiebreaker. But
I'm not as crazy about Russell Wilson as you are, but
example.
But question for you.
Yeah.
So we've both moved. I've moved Andrew Luck down a little bit.
Andrew Duck works.
Andrew Duck would be funny. By the way, that should be a cartoon from somebody. I would watch that as a Saturday morning cartoon. Andrew Duck, and he's in the military uniform. He's like an old timey duck. Yeah.
Does he wear pants? That's always the question with ducks.
No, he doesn't wear pants.
Why would a duck wear pants?
Well,
Never
right.
does.
Donald doesn't wear pants,
No,
and I
he
feel like
doesn't.
that would be insulting to Donald if we had Andrew Duck wear pants.
Yeah.
And then whatever. I'm a company man, and so Donald Duck is a beloved Disney character. And then what am I doing? What am I saying? Like Duck should wear pants? Like no, I'm
looking at Kyle's pulling up some Duck. They don't wear.
Andrew
wear
Duck does not wear pants, but he has a beard.
I was gonna say a beard underneath the bill.
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
He has a beard, and he's a military duck.
Captain Andrew Duck would be hilarious. Too.
Captain Andrew Duck. Tell me that's not a Saturday morning cartoon.
We should make we should really
Someone
pitch
call
this to
Disney
someone.
Plus.
Yeah.
Someone call the executives over at Disney Plus.
Anywho,
All right. Anywho, how concerned are you about T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron? A lot of people like Paris Campbell and Devin Funchess as late sleepers. Would you move any of them down? I haven't not moved any of them down yet, but
if I did, Matthew, it would only be incrementally. And I'm going to trust the Colts in this regard. Frank Reich has consistently urged us, it's not that big of a deal. They are not concerned. Let's give it a couple of more days. Let's give it a week even. I think the third preseason game is when things get real for me.
okay.
If we get to the third preseason game and some of these injuries that we're talking about right now are still percolating, then it's a problem. Andrew Luck, I can move him down as opposed to T.Y. Hilton because, again, there are just so many quarterbacks available that I feel a little bit better about just sliding him down a slot or two. For other players, I'm not, for the pass catchers, it has yet to impact my rankings. If it does, it'll just be small increments, at least for the time being.
Fair enough. Speaking of the Colts.
Yeah, one more footnote for the Colts. Deontay Foreman was claimed off of waivers yesterday, obviously cut by the Texans. Third-round pick. Big, fast, physical guy who had a great combine.
Can I give you my fantasy analysis on Deontay Foreman?
I'll prepare for my library. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Which camera am I on? Am I on 3? Where am I? 3?
3.
3. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kenny, the new guy. My big fantasy analysis on Deontay Foreman to the Colts. Whatevs. I'll do that one again. Whatevs.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Whatevs.
For a second, I thought you were going to say something like 3.2 yards per carry or something like that.
Whatevs.
Whatevs. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like,
That could be a pretty
he couldn't make the
electric
Texans.
Whatevs if we did a 2.
Like, there's a reason. The Texans released him for a reason, right? And just, running backs coming back from Achilles tears are like, again, I'm no Stephania Bell, but she always warns against this. And so, yeah, I don't think I think there's a chance he doesn't make the team. I think if there's a risk at all, maybe it's to Jordan Wilkins, but I'm not concerned at all about Marlon Mack. I am not at all changing my ranking on Marlon Mack.
We've got some teams to talk about. We'll do that in just a second. But first, let me tell you something about ADT, because the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast is brought to you by ADT. What does real protection mean for our listeners or downloaders, whatever? You can get all of the latest innovation in smart home security from ADT, combined with 24/7 monitoring from the most trusted name in home security. Matthew uses them for his mansion. You, as a new consumer, get a team of professionals designing and installing a secure smart home just for you. You get 18,000 employees safeguarding them with connection to first responders. You get the nation's #1 smart home security provider. You can get a smart home with everything from video doorbells, that's cool, indoor and outdoor cameras, also cool, smart locks and lights, and you can have this all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice. You can get professionally monitored carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. Plus, you get a system custom designed to fit your home, big or small. You can get safety on the go, in the car when the kids are at school, with the ADT Go app with an SOS button. Please support ADT because they help us pay Matthew's outrageous salary. Wait, that was in the script. They also support us. Time now for a little bit of Double Trouble.
Double trouble.
Double trouble.
Double trouble. Double trouble.
As of this moment, they're on double secret probation.
All right, we begin with the GOAT, the most accomplished player in the history of the NFL, with the New England Patriots. Patriots' Vegas win total projection is 11 wins. They've done that every single year since 2009, Matthew. Feels like a safe bet to me. Tom Brady is going to be a fascinating player in fantasy football this year. And it may be that there's early drafters, maybe people are drafting based off of emotion, but I'd imagine there may not be too many players with a greater split than where you have him ranked and where his current ADP is. And I'm pretty far off of him too, and maybe I'm being too generous. You have Tom Brady 22nd in your quarterback rankings. I have him 16th. His ADP is 10. Is that just because he's Tom Brady? And Tom Brady's the man. We love him. He's amazing.
It has to be because he's Tom Brady.
It has to be, right?
And look, I am a Tom Brady believer, right? I believe he is truly
nothing more to show.
GOAT,
greatest of all time. Not
six
even
rings, like no debate, right?
Don't even bother debating me.
Right, exactly.
Waste your time.
Greatest quarterback of all time, greatest coach of all time. I think both are
moderately handsome. Moderately.
Yes. Yes. Having said that, there are lots of reasons to doubt the fact that with the caveat that anytime you bet against Tom Brady, you end up losing, usually, right? I mean, there are a lot of NFL coaches that have learned that the hard way. But fantasy-wise, he hasn't been great for quite some time. So last year, this is a guy that was quarterback 14 in terms of total points, QB 18 on a points per game basis. He had under 20 fantasy points in 10 of 16 games last year, had just 3 games with 22 or more fantasy points last season. 17 different quarterbacks had at least 4 such games last year when you think about sort of the scoring. And that is before you get to the idea that he has no Rob Gronkowski this year. If you look at the split since 2010, with and without Gronk, he averages 4 fantasy points less per game without Gronk on the field. Since over his career, averages 20 fantasy points per game with Gronk, without Gronk, 16. Well, last year, this is a guy that if you take away what he averaged last year, you take 4 points away from where he was last year when he was QB 18 on points per game basis. You get QB 22. My concern is that as you look at sort of, and this plays into where we're going with Sony Michel and some of the running backs there, but this is a team that has increased their run percentage over the last couple of years, and I don't know if that is because of the age of Tom Brady. It's because of the personnel they have on the team, but Tom Brady doesn't really add anything with his legs. Obviously,
this is pretty simple, Matthew. I think you're saying a lot of things that all lead us back to this. The passing yardage is going to have to be insane for Tom Brady, and the pass. So it's a quarterback who had 0 with his legs. They have an outstanding running game, perhaps the most diverse running back group in the NFL.
Yep.
And they've got so many question marks at tight end and wide receiver. It's incalculable right now.
Sure.
That's pretty simple. This is not the Patriots are going to figure it out. We have no doubts about that.
Of course.
Best coach in the history of team sports. Best quarterback of all time.
Yep.
But still, there are a lot of other really good players at quarterback this year. If you're drafting at 10 amongst quarterbacks, and you're a huge Patriots fan, I get it. A lot of my friends, I'm from Boston, a lot of my friends are going to be drafting Tom Brady, and I'm cool with it. But Tom Brady there are better values right now, much better values.
New England, 5th in rush percentage and 9th in red zone rush percentage last season. You think about the 2019 postseason, where the Patriots won yet another Super Bowl. They ranked last of all the 12 playoff teams in terms of passing rate. In the 3 games that the Patriots played last year in the playoffs, 2 touchdown passes for Tom Brady, and they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. They accomplished their goal. So, it's just like, if you're the Patriots, why on earth would you be like, you know what? And again, to your point, it's not like he's returning Gronk and Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman and all the guys that he had last year. At the moment, the only guy he's got any familiarity with that's going to be out there on the field with him as a pass catcher, not counting the running backs, is Julian Edelman.
So Tom Brady, so we're in agreement here. Tom Brady, there are better values at quarterback. The running backs are interesting, Matthew. Although we can't necessarily talk about them just as a group, we often lump them together as a group because Josh McDaniels, as creative as there is in terms of offensive coordinators, is so game plan specific, right? It's 6 different running backs, it feels like, in some weeks. They can hurt you. Sony Michel, though, is the player that we have ranked highest amongst running backs for the Patriots this season. Actually, you have him one spot behind James White. But the idea is Sony Michel and James White are the 2 running backs in New England you feel really good about. Sony Michel, there are some injury concerns, Matthew. He began the year on PUP. But the formula for Sony Michel to repeat last year's success is what?
Continue to be the guy. I mean, this is a guy that had 26 goal-to-go rushing attempts. Only Todd Gurley had more in 2018. With the exception of a James Devlin thing going on there. There was a couple of weeks where James Devlin was a thing, but
fullback guy.
Yeah, the fullback that they brought in to sort of just vulture goal line touches. But with the exception of that, Sony Michel was a machine.
Yeah.
And converted and was huge.
Great in the playoffs.
And great in the playoffs. Great. In fact, we did a fantasy football pool, and somehow Not Cool Keith beat me by literally like a 1/10 of a point in our playoff pool. I was the only guy that picked Sony Michel. But Not Cool Keith somehow had the Patriots defense. We did one of these playoff pools where you could pick anyone you want, but you had to pick just 2 people from one.
Each team.
Each team. You could only pick 2 people from each team. And so my Patriots, I think, were Edelman and Sony Michel. I think everyone picked Edelman, but I was the only guy that picked Sony Michel from the Patriots. A lot of people picked Gronk. Some people picked Brady. Keith picked the Patriots defense.
He may not be cool, but he is pretty smart.
I mean, I'm just saying. And so obviously at that Super Bowl, he beat me by literally a 1/10 of a point.
Well, congratulations.
But luckily,
to you,
I'm over it. I'm not at all bitter.
Hey, it really just came down to the fact that, I wanted to have 2 Patriots, but who's the second one to take?
Sure.
So I said, well, I'll just take the defense because you can't predict defenses.
Yeah, and that worked. So
back to Sony Michel. Sony Michel was really solid last year for running the football for the Patriots. Yeah. I think, Matthew, despite the addition of Damian Harris, who we can sort of fold into this conversation, a player they drafted high out of Alabama, it felt to me a bit like what happened with Damian Harris was that the value was so good at the point of when he was available in the real draft. He's such a talented player. By the way, he was the starter at Alabama for the past 3 years, not Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is the superior NFL prospect, but still, Damian Harris is no slouch. People are worried. Sony Michel's injury, the addition of Damian Harris. I still think, though, that when they get to the goal line, they are going to, as we just heard a minute ago, 9th in red zone rushing percentage. Yep. And it's clear who's going to get the football most times. James Devlin might steal one here or there, but Sony Michel, behind a big, terrific offensive line in a run-heavy offense, is going to be the leader in terms of carries, barring injury.
And, it's interesting. And so you're hearing sort of reports from camp. Our own Mike Reese does an amazing job, obviously.
The best, yeah.
Follow him at Mike Reese. But, following both him and other beat reporters that cover the Patriots, you're hearing reports of Sony Michel lining up out wide and that they're using him in the passing game more in practice. And I think my ranking of him currently, I'm at 24 among running backs, is entirely about the knee and concerns there. And as we see him get more and more healthy, I'll continue to move him up. And because the knocks on Sony Michel, the only knocks on Sony Michel are health concerns and, he doesn't catch passes.
Right.
But if we're hearing they're going to use him somewhat in the passing game, and they've also got James White, and they're going to be mix and match.
We'll get to White in just one second here, yeah.
But they're going to use him even if he gets anything in the passing game, and he's healthy, he's a crazy value right now. So, as he's going, he's currently going running back 21. He's going in the 6th round on ESPN.com.
So James White is just 2 slots behind him in terms of ADP.
Yeah, he's running back 23. He's also going in the 6th round.
You know something, Matthew? James White he's just solid. He's just reliable. You know what you're going to get out of him. And although we always think of him as a pass catching running back, he had 87 of those last year. His volume in the running game picked up. He had 94 carries, a career high for him last season. So we have seen more from James White in the running game, which is part of the reason why, he is going to be every week. I mean, he finishes RB7 last year, right?
It's unbelievable.
He may not be a top 10 running back next year, but he could very well be an easy top 15 play.
He's absolutely a value as well. I think there's still the concern of Patriots running backs, you don't know which ones to start. But I feel like they're going to be so run heavy this year that there's going to be enough to go around. And
there's always room for James White.
There's always room for James White, especially
rarely misses games.
Right. And we know that, first off, Tom trusts him,
Yep.
which is a huge thing. I mean, like that offense obviously runs through number 12. And so the fact that that Tom trusts him in pass protections and having him out there. Get this.
Kyle
There's
checked this one, by the way. I don't think he's fumbled since he entered the NFL. Like, who has the most touches over the past, 5 years without a fumble? I bet James White's up there.
I would believe that to be correct. Can I give you a list of here's all the players with at least 55 receptions each of the past 3 seasons?
In terms of running backs or just in general?
Yeah. Running
Okay.
backs. Running backs with at least 55 receptions each of the last 3 seasons.
So Alvin Kamara?
Nope.
Duke Johnson?
Nope.
I don't know.
James White.
That's it?
That's the entire list.
Really?
James White. According to Thirsty Kyle.
That's pretty
Thirsty Kyle
impressive
gives
right
me
there.
a,
James
gives me
White,
a thumb.
only running back with 55-plus receptions each of the past 3 seasons.
Each
He's
of
really
the-
good, Matthew.
Yeah, he really is. And then you think about this. I thought this is another stat that Thirsty Kyle found. Since the beginning of 2017, minimum 200 touches. Here's the top 3 players in terms of percentage of touches that come in the red zone.
Okay.
Okay?
Red zone's good.
Alvin Kamara, 21.8% of his touches come in the red zone.
I like it.
Number 2 is Todd Gurley, 20.7% of his touches come in the red zone. James White, 20%
All right,
of
who
his
knows?
touches come in the red zone. By the way, Sony Michel ranks 7th on that list as well. Just to give you an idea of when they get in close, they like to run the ball.
So
they
let's-
like to get conservative, especially now you think about they don't have Rob Gronkowski anymore.
They do not. Rob Gronkowski, we can talk about in just a moment here, is amongst the pass catchers that are no longer in New England. As of right now, Julian Edelman is the unquestioned lead part of this offense, Matthew. We both have him as a top 15 play. That's where he's going in terms of average draft position. I think the question here would be this. There are plenty of stats to support the fact that he's going to be an absolute beast for this offense.
Sure.
He's going to see a ton of targets. We know he is currently dealing with a thumb issue. I'm here to tell you right now, the expectation is that he'll be fine in plenty of time for the regular season.
Yep.
Can he be your wide receiver 1 this year?
I think if you went running back, sure. You'd want a little depth because injuries have obviously been an issue throughout Julian Edelman's career. And to your point, he's dealing with a thumb issue right now. But here's a guy that last year on a points per game basis was the 12th best wide receiver in fantasy.
Yep.
And that was with Rob Gronkowski on the field. And then you think about at the moment, no Josh Gordon. I mean, it's Julian Edelman and a bunch of guys Tom literally just introduced himself to.
Right.
Braxton Berrios, hi. Maurice Harris, like what's going on? Like, oh, hi, N'Keal Harry. Like, so when you get on the field and you get in those situations, I mean, you're looking for who do you trust? Who do you know where they're going to be? There's a little bit of loosey-goosey math, but go with me here for Edelman. The last 16 games that Julian Edelman has played in the regular season without Rob Gronkowski on the field, 114 catches, 1,374 yards, only 3 touchdowns. We expect that to go up, obviously. 180 targets.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's over at least
16
3 seasons. I'm
Yeah, of
saying,
course.
but like,
So
so
it's
it's
loosey-goosey
dated
math,
back,
yeah.
But still, you're right. When he has played and Gronk has not played, which will be the case this season, certainly it's clear who the Patriots' primary pass catcher is. We got to move to address Josh Gordon briefly. Josh Gordon has applied for reinstatement into the NFL. All I am telling you is this. The Patriots would consider it a bonus if they get Josh Gordon this year. They're not counting on it. They're not expecting it. So for your own drafting purposes, if you're doing it, it better be either a crazy super deep league like the Scott Fish Bowl or with like your last pick in the draft, because you could be burning a roster spot.
Yeah, I mean, or a best ball, I guess, if you want to take a flyer on him in a best ball, something like that too. But yes, a dynasty or a keeper league, if you want to take you've probably already rostered in one of those kind of leagues. But yeah, I mean, I think it is. He has to be reinstated. There's no timetable for that to happen, if that happens at all. And then he has to get into football shape, and he has to fit into whatever the offense that they're currently doing. And even if he's out there, we still expect them to be run heavy. Again, last year they ran at their highest rate since 2010.
Right.
And they won the Super Bowl again. And you just sort of look at sort of what they've done this offseason. The expectation is that at least initially they're going to be more run heavy than not. They did spend a first-round pick, however, on N'Keal Harry.
Which is where we get to next. We've already established the Patriots are a run-heavy offense, but people do have to catch passes other than Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like we've got the swimming pool right now of a variety of players. They include N'Keal Harry, who you just mentioned, Maurice Harris, formerly of Redskins fame.
Hail the Redskins.
Demaryius Thomas as well. You mentioned Braxton Berrios, but I think right now it seems to be, in terms of players that either come with the most experience or most accolades, it's Maurice Harris, N'Keal Harry, Demaryius Thomas, and then Jacoby Myers is an undrafted free agent.
I was
out
just
of
going to
NC
say,
State,
Jacoby Myers, I think it was, I want to say Doug Kayed. I could be wrong on that. I feel like he tweeted out that he's been an impressive
He's been running
guy.
with the first team a lot.
Yeah. So I think it was Doug that tweeted that out yesterday. I apologize if I got that wrong.
Listen, I don't, Matthew, it's impossible. We don't have the time. Like, it's too much to get into each one of these players and just say, like, here are the pros and cons. Like, the reality is, like, probably one of them has a chance to emerge. Not all four of them have a chance to emerge.
Right.
Who's the
and we
value?
didn't even mention
Where
Philip
is the
Dorsett.
value? Philip Dorsett, right.
Right.
Who is the value of the non-Edelman Patriots wide receivers, in your opinion?
Listen, I'm partial to Maurice Harris. I always thought the Redskins sort of squandered his talent.
Yeah.
And he never really got a shot. And we've heard good reports about him out of Patriots camp. Hard to do anything with Demaryius Thomas until we see him help, like, at his age, the Achilles. That one's tough to see. Philip Dorsett's also sort of interesting. We've seen flashes of success with him here, but they are all nothing but flyers. Again, run-heavy offense. We expect it, it's hard to know when you think about the Patriots as a whole. Let's pretend we know. Let's pick Maurice Harris let's pretend we know Maurice Harris is going to be a starter along with Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Do you feel confident starting Maurice Harris, knowing how much McDaniels game plans for the opposing team, knowing how much Tom spreads it around, knowing that it's going to be run heavy, knowing that the majority of the looks are going to go to James White and Julian Edelman, and even apparently some of Sony Michel? Like, how confident would you feel starting Philip Dorsett or Maurice Harris or any wide receiver?
2 words for you. Chris Hogan.
Yeah.
Not confident is the answer, right?
Right.
Like,
Chris Hogan. I took a bath on Chris Hogan last year. I was so promoting him last year.
Me too.
And I was dead wrong. Could not have been more wrong on Chris Hogan last year. And that was somebody that we had actually seen have significant success with the Patriots. I had been with them for a while.
I'm going to be really simple. And I'm probably naive in this way. I'm going with N'Keal Harry. 32nd pick in the draft, most physically gifted. It's going to take some time here, and there is a poor track record of Patriots rookie wide receivers making a mark.
Cut to Aaron Dobson. Hey, what did I do to you?
Well, but there's been some, like Deion Branch and David Gibbons made a mark.
Of course.
But that was a long time ago. Give me N'Keal Harry. I don't mind the call there. I mean, certainly N'Keal Harry is, if you're doing a dynasty or keeper league, N'Keal Harry by far would be the person you're interested in. They'll make him work. It just depends on when that happens. But I think our answer here is for a redraft league. They're nothing but late-round flyers, and they're probably better options that have a clearer path to significant playing time. I agree on that. By the way,
significant, consistent playing time.
Gronk's ADP is 24th amongst tight ends.
Come on.
Again, there are people that are in leagues that are drafted. That's amongst the leagues in which he is drafted. His ADP is 24th. Is there any Patriots tight end you like for value? Because I think Matt Lacoste is my... the word sleeper is sort of lost on me now in fantasy football because everybody knows everybody. But Matt Lacoste, quietly, name that I'm keeping an eye on.
Fair enough. If you're as super deep,
again, deep league,
would not want him to be my starting tight end.
Wire pickup.
Yeah. Would not want him. Like if you're looking to punt the position in a DFS tournament or something like that. Sure, but not somebody I'm targeting in a draft. But that is worth to know. It is worth noting that Field Yates is a former Patriot employee. All
right, let's get to the Miami Dolphins, but we'll take a break first and come right back and talk about the fightin' Brian Flores.
Fantasy, you're in the 06010 focus. Fantasy focus.
You know something, Matthew? They got great weather in Miami.
They really do.
They have great weather in Miami. I can't promise they're going to have great football this year, but they have great weather. And we got that going for us, right?
They have great nightlife. They have great restaurants.
Right. Beaches are awesome.
A lot of very attractive people, both male and female.
Stu Gatz is down there. Yep.
100%.
So,
as good looking as it gets.
That's so we
love Stu Gatz.
We're speaking the same language here. It's going to be a tough year in Miami. Vegas projects them with 5 wins. That is the lowest number of wins predicted by Vegas in the NFL this season.
Yep.
Ryan Fitzmagic. Let's get to the quarterbacks just sort of quickly, Matthew. Him and Josh Rosen both.
And while we were on the air, by the way, got an alert from the Fantasy Life app.
Okay.
Just so you know, Brian Flores' name. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Fantasy Life app, by the way, 100% free to download. It's 4.8 stars on the App Store. There's a reason why people love it. The alerts absolutely crush. It's a great community. It's 100% free. You get some gambling tips, get some DFS tips, get some fantasy advice. It's a great community. Download it, fantasylifeapp.com. It's also an easy way to reach me. I'm at Matthew Berry on that particular app. So check that out. But I just got an alert, and Brian Flores has named Ryan Fitzpatrick as his starter for the first preseason game.
So here's the question people will ask. Ryan Fitzpatrick, we know what we get out of him. It's going to be days where he's going to throw 3 interceptions. But just in the idea that this guy is kind of the YOLO quarterback, right? Like he might throw for 450 yards in a game. Is there any value in a Dolphins quarterback this year, specifically Ryan Fitzpatrick? Because I have an answer. If you
Only in the deepest of best ball leagues.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a punt for me. I get it. Could they prove me wrong? Yes. But Ryan Fitzpatrick last year was throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Adam Humphries and Deshaun Jackson and O.J. Howard. Like, name the best pass catcher on Miami's roster right now. Like, with all due respect to Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker and Albert Wilson, like, it's just a whole different mix, right? And what you're not, like, no one's going to trust Ryan Fitzpatrick for the life of a season.
Right. And we also, by the way, that was last year, that was in a dirt cutter, Todd Monken.
Worst offense in maybe the history of the NFL. It was that bad. Like, they had to throw it.
I'm saying Tampa Bay.
That's what I'm saying, right.
Right.
So the offense, the defense is so bad that you had no choice.
They had to throw, and they couldn't run the ball. We don't know yet what Chad O'Shea, the offense coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, is going to be like as a play caller. He spent a number of years, obviously, under Josh McDaniels, under Bill Belichick, with the Patriots. Brian Flores brought with him from New England. He is highly regarded. Yeah, no question. Very, very bright guy. I'm excited to see what Chad O'Shea does with Miami's. But we don't know. Is he going to be an aggressive play caller? Is he going to be more conservative? And he doesn't have a ton to work with here in his first year as the play caller for the Fins. So, yeah, I think whether it's game 1 or game 6 or game 12, at some point this year we have to see Josh Rosen.
We have to, and I'm not sure he's good, to be honest with you. Right. So my point is I'm punting on Dolphins quarterbacks going into this year. Before we have the most spirited debate of the season,
yes, sir,
for the Dolphins running backs, I'm going to tell you something quickly about ZipRecruiter, because hiring used to be hard. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. But today, hiring can be easy, and you only have to go to one place to get it done.
Tell me more.
ZipRecruiter.com/06010. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. Now that is efficient. And right now, our downloaders can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/06010. That's ZipRecruiter.com/06010. ZipRecruiter.com/06010. That's ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. The Dolphins use ZipRecruiter to find a couple of running backs. Matthew, I kid. But still, there are 2 running backs of note right now.
There really are.
Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage. And Kalen Ballage is not your ride or die, but he was a favorite of yours last preseason, man.
He was. He still is. Love me some Kalen Ballage.
So
Mike Clay hates himself some Kalen Ballage.
And so,
But yeah, I would like to check into the Bellagio.
Right.
Into the Ballage Mahal.
Right.
I'm ready for a Ballage barrage.
Okay, that works. Yeah, definitely. Any more?
Yeah. Let's see. One of my favorite personalities here at ESPN is Kalen Rose, sort of.
Okay,
maybe.
We have jumped the shark. Kenyon Drake versus Kalen Ballage. The storyline of training camp right now seems to be that it's basically an even workload. It is.
Thank you.
Kenyon Drake, Kalen Ballage, as they're on their depth chart, they list them as or in terms of starters.
So
or Kenyon Drake or Kalen Ballage.
So a couple of things here about Kalen Ballage and just sort of about this situation. So I talked about this last year, and that didn't end up working out, but. Like, people were killing him on Twitter last year. Mike Clay and other fantasy analysts at other sites as well were just absolutely killing him. And my point was, and I said this to Mike on the podcast, and I said this to Mike on Twitter, like, I don't understand, like, all this anti-Kalen Ballage, who even this year, I mean, like, he was going way later, even undrafted last year. And this year, Kalen Ballage's
50th, right?
ADP is running back 49.
Okay.
He's a 17th rounder. Like, he's not even being drafted in every light, right? So he's going as running back 49. He's going behind Deontay Foreman.
Right.
He's being drafted behind. He's being drafted behind Matt Breida and Deontay Foreman and Carlos Hyde, who may not even make the team. And so my argument is that there is a clear path to Kalen Ballage having fantasy relevancy. And so here's a guy who is big, who is fast, who caught a lot of balls at Arizona State, And, is 6'4". The people that argue in it, he isn't the most efficient, doesn't have the best vision. I get it. Are there areas
true.
Are there areas of his game that need to be improved? 100%. But the NFL has been littered with players that aren't necessarily great NFL players, but are definitely fantasy assets.
I agree. And here's the reason why I have him actually ranked 32nd, which is even higher than you.
It's unbelievable. You stole my Kalen Ballage love. I can't believe it.
But here's my point. Is if you go through ADP again, Matthew, and I'm going to share your screen here for a second, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Look at the people that are being drafted ahead of Kalen Ballage amongst running backs, all right? And I see, for example, I see like LaShawn McCoy or Darrell Henderson or Jarrett McKinnon, Royce Freeman. You mentioned Carlos Hyde, Deontay Foreman. The reason why I went with this sort of Kalen Ballage love, and I think I have maybe even a slot behind or a couple slots ahead of LaShawn McCoy. I think LaShawn McCoy is an accomplished player.
100%.
But my point is this. Of the running backs, you get to a point in your fantasy football running back rankings where all of a sudden you're looking at guys who are like pigeonholed into a specific role. And I don't mean to pick on this player, but like if something happens to Marlon Mack, I don't think that Nyheim Hines all of a sudden becomes a 20 touch per game.
Of course he
guy.
doesn't. Right. It's him and Jordan Wilkins.
We're already at the point where it's not clear that Kenyon Drake is even the starter. But if something were to happen to Kenyon Drake, Caleb Ballage, if you look at the rest of the roster, looks like he's going to be in line for somewhere between 18 and 20 touches a game.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted Myles Gaskin. We'll see what we get.
7th round pick, though,
yeah,
right?
I mean, right. I mean, like something like late. So, yeah, I mean, Kalen Ballage is somebody who is big and fast. Remember, Frank Gore had 156 carries last year. So there's 11 per game. And it does not seem, regardless of whether people want him to be or not, it does not seem like Kenyon Drake has ever gotten a coach that feels like he can be a workhorse.
That's part of my thing, too, is that, like, if Kenyon Drake, and there's good numbers, but if you look at last year, Kyle passes along. Last year, only he and Christian McCaffrey were the running backs that had at least 500 rushing yards, at least 50 receptions, and 5 receiving touchdowns. That's good company to be in.
Sure.
And yet, there's plenty of numbers you can paint with that would tell you he's good, except for the ones that, like, the coaches can't ever commit to him. So it's a bit of a, it's a little bit of a, it's a strong play. It's a heavy-handed player with Kalen Ballage, but the idea is there's enough natural talent at 6'2", 237, good 40 time. Miami feels like one of those teams, Matthew, that it's going to be pretty clear they're going to be in audition mode this year. I'd rather take my chances on a guy like this than not wasting a draft pick on someone else. But
when you think about cost, by the way, and Kenyon Drake currently going as running back 26 in the 8th round. Like, I don't mind that cost either.
Sure, yeah.
But Ballage is like literally dirt cheap. And as to your point, Cameron Wolfe, who does a great job for us covering the Dolphins, he's with Miami this year, basically saying, like, it's been an even split so far through camp. And I think that's what we expect, is this a 50-50 split. So you're telling me I can get half of a and I'm getting him free with potential for more? Like, because one of these guys could easily, no pun intended, run away with a job.
Right.
To your point, it is audition mode in Miami.
It's a chance. I get it. It's probably too strong. Maybe I'm overreacting to some of the things that I've read so far in training camp this year. But it's, at some point, we can't all just be status quo with our rankings. There's no fun for everybody.
I met Kalen Ballage 2 years ago at the NFLPA Rookie Premiere, and he is a massive human being.
Yeah, he's a beast.
So 6'2", 237 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like Brandon Jacobs, he reminded me sort of Brandon Jacobs. But just imagine Brandon Jacobs being fast.
Right.
Because this is a guy that ran a 4.46 40.
Right.
And caught a bunch of balls at Arizona State. Like, he's actually for a guy that size to be able to catch balls, like, again, I get it. He needs to work on the efficiency. He needs to work on the vision. There are flaws in his game, but there's some serious potential with Kalen Ballage if they can fix those issues.
Got some traits, and it may be that the only player in Miami's roster that you can actually play week to week is a Dolphins running back if one of them emerges.
Right.
Because the pass catchers, Matthew, it's grim.
Yeah.
Who is there a pass catcher that you want to plant a flag on, or you want to feel strongly about going into this year? The names of note are obviously Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, Mike Gesicki, the tight end. Is there anybody that at cost right now you're intrigued by the value? Because basically they're all going free.
So plant a flag, no.
Right.
If I have to pick one, I guess Kenny Stills, just because we've seen
He's a good player.
He's a good player. We've seen success from him. We've seen, it's been inconsistent, but we have seen some fantasy success from him.
If anybody's going to benefit from a Fitz YOLO bomb, it's going to be Kenny Stills.
100%. Like, very randomly, surprisingly, like, you'll win some bar bets with this one. Kenny Stills has 6 or more touchdowns in 3 straight seasons.
Weird. Huh.
I mean, right? Like, he's managed to get this among qualified quarterbacks. He's 16, and he averages 16 yards per catch for his career. He's 4th among qualified wide receivers, right? Only Josh Gordon, Deshaun Jackson, Tyrell Williams have better numbers over that stretch. So right. Do you think about, especially if we think Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starter for some or the majority of this thing, if ever there was a YOLO quarterback and who's he looking for, it's Kenny Stills, who's the deep threat. I guess if I was in a deeper PPR league, I could see some Albert Wilson, who I think is going to be their slot guy this year. And if I knew Josh Rosen was going to start the entire season, I might lean towards Wilson. But at the moment, I have Stills ranked ahead of Wilson. I'm not buying the annual, I believe it is annual, Devontae Parker, this is the year hype. Every year.
What's the expression?
I think some people are just dusting off the articles from previous years and updating the years.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me 8 times?
Whatever. Yeah, fool me 8 times, and you have to get a Devontae Parker tattoo. Like, that's the repercussion for being fooled 8 times. Matthew, it's just hard to feel really strongly about a Dolphins pass catcher. We think this team is going to be struggling for wins this season. Could somebody emerge? It's possible. But right now, going into your draft, there are other teams with far better pass catching options you should be locked in on.
Yeah, and I've seen some people talk up Mike Gesicki as sort of a sleeper tight end.
Nice athlete.
Yeah, I get it, but that's, again, until you see that offense, until you see some consistency from Gesicki, I don't know. I think there are better flyers late at the tight end position than Gesicki.
I'm with you on that. So the Dolphins will see whether they can prove the doubters wrong. Because some people down there, I know Cameron has written, like, this is not a team that's tanking this year, despite some of the roster flaws. They want to win. Will be an interesting year there for the Miami Dolphins.
100%. And I am open to more Kalen Ballage puns. That's what I really need.
Ooh, at
Matthew Berry TMR, we got the Bellagio, the Ballage Mahal, the Ballage Barrage. I feel like there's more you can do with Kalen.
Fantasy names.
I was trying to find a way that there was maybe like an alcohol where you're like, I'm drunk on, but I couldn't think of an alcohol that had like a Ballage kind of a name to it. Field?
Right.
Any craft beers that come to mind?
Ballage, Ballage, no. Kalen, I'm sure there's a kale reference you could bake into one of those. You don't like kale? Kale's delicious.
Matthew drank a kale smoothie yesterday on the TV show.
This is a true story. So we had a joke around a kale smoothie. We had a Tom Brady goat kale smoothie thing, and they brought me an action. I didn't know what they was going to do. I knew that was the joke, and so that the end of the sketch. By the way, new fantasy show up on ESPN Plus. Our Dominate Your Draft show with me and Secret Squirrel there. Field, you made an appearance.
It's fun.
So we had a lot of fun. So check that out on ESPN Plus. Of course, I'm a company man, but. They bring me this kale smoothie that I'm supposed to sip as the end of the joke, and they bring it to me, and it's an actual kale smoothie. I thought they were just going to bring me a cup, and claim, but it was actually, and you could see it was green and gross, and it was a
there
clear,
were full chunks of kale leaves in there,
clear plastic cup, and it was full chunks of kale. And so I got the straw, and I just went. And I didn't actually suck any kale out of it. Daniel noticed it and called me out on it afterward. But I just I did the joke without I did a half suck and so that no actual kale got into my mouth. So
I thought we only half sucked today.
No healthy, nothing healthy got into my body. You were all. We had dodged that bullet.
This engine continues to run.
So we did only half suck today, my friend.
We're going to try not to half suck tomorrow. We're going to be really good if we can. We're doing a double trouble preview, the Eagles and the Cowboys, which means plenty more Zeke talk. In the meantime, Daniel.
In the meantime, Chi Sando from our Twitter stream has a comment. He said, Keith, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, he says a Ballage et trois for when 3 people are talking about Kalen Ballage.
Not bad right there. When we get Mike Clay and we do a little battle of the Ballage cakes, that will be interesting.
Well, listen, you have him even higher than I. I believe Field, myself, and Kalen are in a Ballage a trois. What is it? A
Ballage et trois.
Ballage et trois. I like that. A Ballage et trois.
Not bad right there. Okay, anyways, we are back tomorrow.
Me, Kenyon Drake, and Kalen in a Ballage et trois.
Matthew, me, back tomorrow. Double trouble.
Oh,
can't wait.
Big Ballage brand from Thirsty Kyle.
Oh, not bad. Not bad. We're back tomorrow.
Peace out.
You're in the 06010. Never gonna hustle in case you didn't know. Matthew Berry TMR.
You guys go ahead. Give me grief for being on SportsCenter for 45 seconds.